Genesis, the core of social justice is the family. And I said, that's Pat Buchanan. I said, I'm a Republican. That's it, Mark. I mean, now, it wasn't me because I'm convinced that I didn't vote Republican until Bob Dole, actually, because to me, when Dole gave up the majority, you know, he put everything on the line. And I said, man puts everything on the line, served as a veteran. That was my first GOP vote. But that's what did it. I mean, it was intellectual. It wasn't emotional. And but what you were saying about the left trying, and you know who made your argument was Albert Camus. And if anybody thinks it's just you, Mark Levin, running off and saying stuff, Albert Camus, who is a humanist and a secularist, asked himself the question why millions were killed. You talked about the bodies and the Holocaust and why the first half of the 20th century, the World War I and World War II, and he blamed Sartre, Hegel, Rousseau, Freud, Feuerbach, and one or two others. Everybody, the three that you named and the others. And his argument was that in the deconstruction, they want to eliminate traditional values, the seminaries, and God, and replace themselves as God. And the summary of what you just said is that the progressives want to substitute the French Revolution for the American Revolution, and the founders knew about the French Revolution. They did not want pure democracy. That's why there's an electoral college. That's why the president isn't elected by pure, quote, majority vote. It's constitutional. And what the conclusion you're building toward, and I hope Mr. Trump embraces it, is your convention of states, because that's the constitutional way to address the over-centralization of power in the administrative state that you're talking about. So, that's
what a great call,
you know what
George.
you're saying. That's how it is.
Well, what a great call, because Mr. Producer, Mr. Colster, and I'll tell you, during the breaks, I'll say to them all, does anybody even listening, you think they even give a damn about what I'm saying? Sometimes I wonder, you know.
Oh, I give a damn, and not only that, I mean, I pulled off the side of the road so that I wouldn't break the administrative law talking to you myself.
Well, thank you very much, George. God bless you. Sergio, Miami, Florida, on the Mark Levin app. How are you, sir?
Oh my God, I can't believe I got to you, man. Listen, all I gotta say is, Mark, I love the country, Nicaragua. I came here 16 years old, and I was a lost kid. And I see what's going on in this country. I see what the Democrat is doing to the people of this country. They're brainwashing us. They're brainwashing the people. All I'm saying is, well,
Public better wake up, right?
yes, exactly. Let me tell you, Mark, you wake me up. No, you didn't wake me up. What I'm saying is, with my own people from Nicaragua, I'm from Nicaragua.
Yes, sir.
And I talk to my own people and say, hey, wake up. Don't you see what they're doing to you? Don't you see what the Democrats are doing to this country? You have to get educated. You have to get to know how this country was built in our own self. You have to grow up within yourself. Now, listen, what's going on in Nicaragua right now, you see the news, right? There's a lot of kids being killed because they had it. They had it
Because they're starting to rise up against the Marxists there.
Mark, but you know what's going on? They don't have a constitution. They don't have the rule of law. They don't have nothing to hold on to it. In this country, we have our own constitution. And that's what the Democrats are trying to erase.
That is, thank you, Sergio. Very, very well put. Now, I'm going to tell you something that is going to infuriate my wife. The first part is going to infuriate my wife. The second part she'll love. So this morning I went to Dunkin' Donuts. Oh boy, you're going to hear about this. But this morning I went to Dunkin' Donuts. And it was a long line. And there was a gentleman in front of me. He was wearing a t-shirt for a body shop. Blue t-shirt, something or other body shop. And he kept looking at me going, oh jeez. Am I wearing my clothes on on right, and, put my shirt on inside out. But actually, when somebody does it, I know they're trying to figure out who I am if they don't know who I am. And he looks at me and he says, in a voice much like Sergio's, broken English, "Are you Mark Levin?" I said, "I am." And he couldn't have been nicer, and he said, "Let me tell you something. I listen to your talks. That's why I'm doing this today. It's like Susan Rice's son. If I can appeal to 3, 5, 10 people tonight, I've done my job as a citizen." And he said to me, I said, what do you do? He said, "I'm a mechanic. I work on diesel engines, so I guess mostly trucks." And he said, "And I told everybody there to listen to your show." And I said, "Well, I can't thank you enough." I said, "Why?" "Because you talk about liberty." He said, "You talk about liberty. And I want people to understand liberty." And he comes from south of the border somewhere. We didn't have time to get into it. This is important. This is important stuff. I know the whole country is focused on Samantha Bee. I know that. But why is Samantha Bee important? Not because of her or her show or her disgusting character and everything. No, but she's illustrative. Colbert is illustrative. Kimmel is illustrative. Jake Tapper is illustrative. CNN. I have a question. We'll work on our footnotes now. I have a question about CNN. What is CNN's purpose? Let's just focus on CNN. What is the purpose of CNN? I've pointed out, and others have now pointed out, that it's in every damn airport you go into. We looked into this, and now we know they have a national contract with a bunch of airports that go on for years and so forth. They have a monopoly in a lot of these airports. And that was when they were proud to be a news operation. Even though they were liberal, they weren't like we are today. What is the purpose of CNN today? It's not a news organization. I know they attack Fox. Fox is much more a news organization than CNN. Fox will tell you which are the news programs and which are not. CNN doesn't do that. CNN doesn't even try to be fair and balanced. Whenever they have a so-called conservative Republican on there, it's always 3-1, 4-1, 8-1. You have former spokespeople for the Obama administration on at Fox. Doesn't mean I like them. It means they're there. You have former spokespeople for the Hillary Clinton campaign on Fox. You don't have the same thing on MSNBC and CNN, but you know what? That's not even what I'm talking about. What is the purpose of CNN? They say they're there to protect freedom of the press. They're not protecting freedom of the press. How are they protecting freedom of the press? How is Jake Tapper protecting freedom of the press? The constant day in and day out propaganda, the hate for the current president, administration, and his family doesn't protect freedom of the press. We have evidence. Evidence abounds of police state tactics that were used by the prior administration. What does CNN do? They hire one of the people involved. What does NBC, MSNBC do? They hire one of the people involved, Brennan. What do all the mean big media outlets do? They promote Jim Comey in his book. Then they tell us a spy isn't a spy. First a spy is an informant, then they're a human resource person. And it's no big deal. It's like going up to the bar and talking to somebody. Really? The FISA court? What's the problem with the FISA application? No big deal. What's the FISA with the dossier? So the Russians are, involved. But no big deal. So what's the problem with Mueller? A man who has an absolute blank slate in violation of the appointments clause of the Constitution. Absolute blank slate to do whatever he wants. What's the problem with the tactics he's used against Manafort and Lieutenant General Mike Flynn? No big deal. It's all okay.